Shalom, shalom, everybody. Welcome back to another episode of the Pulse of Israel here in our eternal and ancestral homeland, the land of Israel, in our beautiful, biblical, eternal, and indivisible capital, Jerusalem, since King David's time. And why do I say that in every single episode? Because sometimes it's these basic truths and facts that we have to say out loud, not just for ourselves, but everyone around us, because there's so much fake news on every single moment about everything, and our confidence in our own just story gets hit. So yes, it's important to even repeat the basic facts about ourselves and the land of Israel and our connection to our eternal homeland that is so basic, but so many people seem to forget. Today, going back to basics in a real comprehensive way, I am joined by Ken Abramowitz of SaveTheWest.com. Shalom, Ken.
Shalom. Great to be with you.
It's always a pleasure having you and your insight. Ken has always fabulous insight globally, America. He has a famous line that I like to repeat all the time to people, that America first, but not America only. Or how would you say it differently?
We're having an internal dispute between America first and America alone.
Got it. All right, and yeah, we all have to look through the daily headlines, which we don't know what is true or not. Sometimes good, sometimes bad, but understand that there is this battle going on within the Trump administration itself. So I just wanted to take you along this journey to help us understand what is going on. Because on the one hand, President Trump, the best president ever for the Jewish people in the Jewish state of Israel, hands down, no argument. Every once in a while, there are things that worry us. The deal made with the Houthis worried some people, because even though the Trump deal by Witkoff stopped all attacks on American ships, it did not stop all the aggression against Israel. And still, almost every single day, we're getting shot at by the Houthis. So people are asking, wait a second, a comprehensive deal to also help America would have also included not shooting at Israel. Wasn't included. Then we have this Iran deal that we don't know exactly what's going on. They can enrich uranium, they can't enrich uranium, or how much uranium, it's going to be in Iran, it's not going to be in Iran. Again, being run by Witkoff, and again having a lot of question marks. Wait a second, is this going to be another Obama JCPOA plus deal or not? Trump says from his own tweets, whatever, that no, they won't be allowed to enrich uranium at all. A lot of confusion. Can you help us break down what's going on behind the scenes according to your analysis and your intelligence sources?
Sure, be happy to. So the reason we're all confused is because Trump is confused. Because he's getting multiple inputs from a lot of different people, like any president you would expect. And Trump has publicly said this. He says, I like to have around me a table of different people representing different viewpoints. I like to hear the different viewpoints, and then I make a decision. You see, Trump's not a big reader, but he's a great listener. He offsets his the fact that he just doesn't have time to do a lot of reading with the fact that he's a very quick learner and listens carefully to what people say. So the reason he's confused, and it might be it's probably purposeful, because remember, he wants to hear the different viewpoints.
Right.
So he put these people in place to give them different viewpoints. So I'll give you an example. There's America First, which President Trump's never actually defined other than through his speeches. And so if you put the speeches together, which I've done, you can have a slide of America First. But there's two America First. There's America First short-term and America First long-term. You see, as you well know, a politician's in power for 2 years, 4 years, 6 years. We, as parents, grandparents, hopefully great-grandparents, we're directly or indirectly alive for hundreds of years, through future generations.
Right.
So we're looking for America First long-term. A typical politician is looking at America First short-term. So that's one dispute that can come out between different staff and aides. Another dispute is...
Just breaking that down, meaning while they're trying to make the best decisions possible, they're also trying to make sure it's a good decision that helps them in the next upcoming election, whether presidential or midterm for Congress and Senate, etc. So it's not always we're making the best decision, knowing long-term it's the best decision, if it doesn't translate to assisting the efforts to ensure they have the power to make the good decisions in another 2 years.
Right. Okay. So when I talk to politicians, I say to them, there's two America first, short-term, long-term. As a politician, you're America first, short-term. I understand. That's the system. But as a parent or grandparent or future great-grandparent, you're America first, long-term, right? You don't want to do something stupid today that blows up your great-grandchildren in 78 years.
Right.
So they go, oh, yeah, I understand. So I try to... they have to resolve the dilemma. I cannot resolve it for them as an outsider. But each politician, I want them to weigh America first short-term, America first long-term. Try to do America first long-term, if at all possible. Now then we have another group of people that I and other people call America alone, which is not America first.
America alone.
Right.
Okay.
So America alone is isolationist, and it takes us back to World War II, where Charles Lindbergh, the famous aviator at that time, was a big proponent of America alone, and did not want America dragged into World War II, and did not want America rearming to protect against potential future aggression from Germany or Japan. And he brought on Pearl Harbor. Now, he was not...
What do you mean he brought on Pearl Harbor?
Well, I call America alone advocates warmongers.
I get where you're going. Okay. Yeah.
Because if you say to your enemy, you do it, whatever you want, I don't care, I'm here, I have an ocean here and I have an ocean there, and I don't care what happens in Europe, and I don't care what happens in Japan, I'm America alone. I call that warmonger, because the enemies listen in 1 second and say, great.
Open season.
Yes, hunting season.
Hunting season, right. So you're translating that to what you said about Pearl Harbor. For everyone, you're basically saying because of the Lindbergh direction of America alone, that was the green light to Japan to attack America, and hence Pearl Harbor happened, as opposed to if America would have joined the war beforehand, it would have stopped Pearl Harbor from happening.
But there's a step first. It was a message to Japan to take over the Far East, and a message to Germany to take over Europe.
Right.
But after dictators and death cult advocates get excited, they then say, well, all this money and wealth and potential powers in America, let's go after America too.
Right. And again, people forget that had America not entered World War II, Germany would have taken over the whole world, if not America as well.
Well, certainly all of Europe, and then would be speaking German. If they're living, they would have killed so many people. Then they would go for greener pastures. So it would lead them towards America.
Right. But that's something that these isolationists still don't internalize today. That had America not entered World War II, Germany would have won that war. Nazis would have won that war. And they don't even deal with that in terms of trying to translate what that means for today in terms of standing down against global evil.
Well, it goes to another issue, which is human nature. People do not follow through the logic of their opinions. So if you said to Charles Lindbergh, just pretend, in 1938, if you continue to advocate to your million members and to the politicians that you know to be America alone, do you know that Germany and Japan are going to dramatically rearm? They're going to do terrible things over there, you know, the famous song, Over There. And then they kind of come here.
Right.
You have to think of the ramifications of what you're saying. He probably would have said, oh, you're a warmonger, Ken or Avi, and you're scaring the people. And Germany just wants to stay in Germany, because I looked at a map and it said Germany, and so they're going to stay there, and Japan is going to stay there. Now, bad guys never stay where you want them to stay. I call them like lions. You know, you say to the lion, why don't you sit over there in the corner? And the lion, if he speaks English, says, I don't want to sit in the corner. So you have to force him to sit in the corner if you want him in the corner. Now, to his credit, after Pearl Harbor, he volunteered to, I saw this on Google because I was so curious about it, and he volunteered to fly 50 combat missions after Pearl Harbor. So he was not a traitor.
Lindbergh.
He was not a traitor. He was a patriot. He was just didn't understand national security. So I would call him, using Lenin's term, a useful idiot of the Germans, but not a traitor.
Mm-hmm.
Sometimes the America-owned people are actually traitors. You know, they're Iranian agents or some other Qatari agent, yeah, or Chinese agents.
Right.
But Lindbergh, to his credit, was not a traitor. He was just misinformed, ill-informed, but he caused huge damage to America. And then there's a third group of people surrounding Trump, which I call friends of Trump, and that would be like Stephen Witkoff. So they're not particularly ideological. They're not even particularly well versed in foreign policy, but they're friends. They played golf together. They did some real estate deals together. They're smart people, but they don't know a lot about the subject matter. I remember 25 years ago hearing some historian talk, and he said that when the president comes into power, in his team with him, whatever they know on their first day, that's about all they're ever going to know. He said there's no time for learning on the job. There's no time for reading books. You're not taking a 2-week vacation and reading 10 books to bring yourself up to speed on some given issue. You're just thrown into the fire, and you have to figure it out fast. And so the friends of Trump would be an example, and Trump himself would be an example of people who are quite capable, but they're not experts in Iran, experts in Qatar, experts in anything. They're just quick learners. So they need a staff around them to bring them up to speed. So those are the three
different groups of advisors around that he surrounds himself with.
Right. But because there's America First in short-term, long-term, you can say there's 4 groups of people surrounding him. And that's why someday I read a quote or see a press conference, I say, oh, America First, yes. And then another day go,
the America First, but America not America only.
Yeah, right. And one day he's America First short-term. The next day he's America First long-term.
Right.
The next day he's America alone. And the next day he's just talking to his friends that he plays golf with. So he zigs and zags.
So how confident are you, based on that understanding and the decisions that this administration is making, or the deals that they're making, etc.?
Well, we know a few traits about Trump, obviously. He likes to win. He publicly says, we're going to win so much, you're going to get tired of winning.
Right.
So he likes to win. He doesn't like to be played for a fool. He doesn't want to be strung along by negotiations. He wants things accomplished like fast, because he has to deal with 187 issues. And if he spends 2 years on each issue, he's not going to finish anything. So he's determined to basically pretend that he's president for 8 years and accomplish it all in 2 years before the midterm election. And I don't blame him. That's the way he should be behaving. And so he wants action. But he not only confuses our friends, he also confuses our enemies. Because our enemies see him going like this, and they don't quite know how to behave.
And that's good. It's good to confuse your enemy.
Yes, one of the key good attributes of Trump is he's unpredictable. And you actually want a leader who's unpredictable, who says, I have a gun now, who should I shoot? So I mean, you don't want someone crazy, obviously, but you want someone unpredictable so that the enemies...
On their toes.
Yeah. But as a result of his zigzagging, we have the Ukraine-Putin deal, which was supposed to happen in 1 day, shows no particular resolution to it.
Yeah, that situation just looks like it's getting worse and worse.
Putin doesn't seem to be afraid of Trump. By the way, you always want your enemies afraid of you, right? Your friends, you want them to respect you. But your enemies, you want them afraid. So Putin's not afraid of Trump. And then you have the leadership of Iran is not afraid of Trump. And China's not afraid of Trump. So Trump has to reestablish his credibility with the bad guys. And the reason he's in this predicament is because you behave differently to different allies depending upon the category that they're in. So you have different 193 countries or so in the world. You have countries that are allies, obviously. Not many, but they're allies. You have countries that are enemies, obviously. And in between, you have what we call frenemies, half friends, half enemies. You have to behave differently to each of them, see? And the particular difference with enemies, and half the time with frenemies, is although they're run by humans, president, prime minister, supreme leader, whatever, they don't behave like humans. So I have an expression that if human beings don't behave like humans and they behave like animals, you have to treat them like animals. And so Trump doesn't quite understand that. So I created a little analogy about that. And pretend I'm talking, pretend you're Steve Woodcock and I'm President Trump. And I say, Steve, you're the best negotiator ever. You've bought and sold so many different buildings and businesses. I really admire your ability to negotiate. So can you help me today? I have a special problem. I just got a call from the zookeeper at the Washington Zoo, and the animals have escaped from the cages. Could you please go to the zoo and negotiate with those animals and get them back into the cages? So you say, Mr. President, I'm a master negotiator with humans. I've never negotiated with animals. I say, oh, Steve, I didn't tell you this. In Washington, the animals speak English. So you can go and talk to them, explain to them why they really should be in their cages.
That's a fabulous analysis.
Right.
Analogy.
Right. So then you say to me, Mr. President, if you want me negotiating with animals, I want a gun, a knife, a whip, and 25 Navy SEALs. Then I will go and, in quotes, talk to the animals, and then I will convince them to go back into their cages.
So you're based on your analysis, you are saying that from what it seems in all these different Witkoff talks, at least from the information we know, he has not been showing any whip or gun in his hand.
That's right. Right.
And that's really where our major concern is.
Right. Because he thinks that humans who behave like animals are actually humans and think like humans and act like humans. You can negotiate with them like humans, and he doesn't understand the difference, as we were just discussing.
So I want to throw out another piece of information to this mix, because I've heard this directly from congressmen who, whether they're involved or they know about the Trump administration's push to try to get this new ISIS ruler in Syria pulled out of the Russian orbit, not Iranian because they're Sunnis, so they're against Iran also, but pulled out of the Russia-China orbit and therefore closer to America. Because when I talk to them, I'm like, you don't understand. This guy has a $10 million bounty on his head by the American government. He's massacring people in Syria today. How in the world does the Trump administration think that, what's the benefit in saying, oh, we're going to have the Abraham Accords with this new leader of Syria? And their answer is, we're trying to pull him out of the Russia-China orbit, and we want to give it a chance, because we don't get to choose the leaders of these countries, and he's what we got. We got to work with it. So that bothers me. Like, but how much credence is there to this claim? Like, no, we have to work with him because we want to push him away, pull him out of the Russian-China orbit, because then the situation for us and the world will be much worse. I'd love to hear your 2 cents on that.
Well, I think everything you said is actually reasonable. I do think that Trump thinks, and reasonably thinks, that he wants to move everyone possible out of the
Russia-China orbit.
China-Iran orbit.
Right.
Okay. So he knows that those 3 countries are evil, and so that's why he deals with frenemies like Qatar, and more of a friend than an enemy, Saudi Arabia, and frenemy like Turkey, and wants them in the American orbit, even with their imperfections. and even with their false narratives, but with conditions. So Secretary of State Rubio said, we're going to try it. It's an experiment. I can't tell you it's going to work. I'm paraphrasing. I can't tell you it's going to work.
Which is an experiment?
Giuliani.
Giuliani, the Syria situation.
To end American sanctions against Syria, try to bring Syria and Giuliani into the American orbit.
Right, as he's publicly, he's a public ISIS guy, massacring all the minorities and said that our next destination is Jerusalem. So that's their long-term plan, and we know, I mean, again, in my talks with Congressmen, I'm telling them, guys, you don't understand, we're up against a 1,400-year-old enemy that wants to destroy us all. So whatever deals we make today, they're deals on the ice because they know they're going to wait us out, whether they have to wait 2 years or 4 years or whatever. It's only a matter of time. So it's only empowering them today to continue doing all the bad stuff. Right. So that's what I try to give across while still they're saying, but this is what we have to deal with and to pull now out of the Russia-China orbit.
Okay, but you're correct. But Secretary of State Rubio said there are 7 conditions and it's written down. I can't tell you all the 7, but they're all logical 7 conditions. And he says that if they meet these conditions, we'll have a real relationship with them. Right. And if they don't, it'll be a failed experiment. But let's try. Right. That was what Rubio said. Now there is a logical compromise here, although not a compromise that can be written on a piece of paper. Right. A compromise written by the Israeli Air Force. So, what's the Israeli Air Force done over the past several months? In 3 days, there were 500 sorties against the old Syrian government as it was disappearing, so that the Navy, the Air Force, the bases didn't fall in the hands of Giuliani and his people. So that wasn't written on a piece of paper, it's just done. Okay. Then Israel took over, you could say, or guaranteed the safety of the Druze, the wonderful Druze in southern Syria.
Well, not enough. That's what they've done. We've done the minimum of the minimum, but I believe we should be doing more, and I think it's because Netanyahu doesn't have the guts to push the envelope with Trump, because we should just take over all of southern Syria up to Damascus to protect all the Jews. There are hundreds of thousands of Jews there. But he hasn't done that. We've only taken like a 5-kilometer strip along the Israeli border, which is why I've been explaining some of the Druze leaders have said that they're making deals with Giuliani because they feel they have to, because they don't feel they have the Israeli protection like they need to in order not to have to make deals with Giuliani. They're looking after their lives, and if they can't 110% rely on Israel to be able to be there, and we're only able to do it if we're there physically, which means not just 5 kilometers, but I don't know, all the way up to Damascus, then they're having to make a deal with the devil to protect their lives. So
now, there's no difference between American and Israeli national security interests, either short-term or long-term.
I'm with you on that.
When there is a difference, it's because one of the parties doesn't understand their real self-interest.
I'm 100%. Yeah. And in this case, America doesn't understand.
America doesn't understand that having Israel protecting the Druze, the Americans don't even know what a Druze is. Right. All right? They wouldn't know if they ran into a Druze what a Druze is, unless there was a T-shirt that said Druze.
Right.
So
true.
So it's not surprising that American president said, it's part of Syria. Israel, you stay out, because Giuliani is going to be in control of Syria.
Right.
So Israel has to explain to Mr. President, the Druze, we have a special relationship with the Druze. And we have a special relationship within Israel and then with Syrian Jews who want our protection. And they trust us. They don't trust Giuliani.
And I'll go push back even further. Israel taking over southern Syria to protect the minorities, especially the Druze there, is the strongest condition that America should have, that Rubio should have on the table with Giuliani. Giuliani, beware. No, we know we can't trust you. That's why we're letting Israel take over the southern part of the country. So don't you dare misstep if you want to be on our good side.
Well, I'll go a step further.
Please.
Not just what you said, and to continue the sentence, and don't touch the Kurds.
Right, or else Israel will get involved.
Either America will get involved or we'll ask Israel to get involved. So hands off the Kurds, hands off the Druze, and don't go and kill the Alawites. Right. Even though we don't care about the Alawites.
No, because they were bad to us.
They were bad to us, but there are roughly 2 million of them. And any normal country that wants to succeed has to protect minority rights. And until you show us that you can protect minority rights, well, we'll also be protecting or watching over the Alawites.
Right. And it's on this point that I want to make a call out to anyone in the Trump administration who's listening today and say, please invite Ken and me in to give this more detailed analysis of the situation so that we can not only protect the Druze, not only protect Israel, but protect America and the freedom-loving world by really having a better understanding of the situation on the ground and why Israel needs to be stronger and bigger in order to help America. Like, again, in some of my meetings in Congress, I was telling them, we understand, America, you go take care of China. Israel, let us take care of the Middle East like we need to, because we understand the region. So think of it like a subcontractor. We're the subcontractor. We don't need you to have boots on the ground.
By the way, Yoram Ettinger calls Israel an aircraft carrier.
The what?
Yoram Ettinger,
Ambassador
Yoram Ettinger, likes to call Israel the equivalent of an American aircraft carrier.
But you know who said that initially? It wasn't Yoram Ettinger. It was former U.S. Secretary of State Alexander or Hamilton, whatever, in the 80s.
Alexander Haig?
Alexander Haig. That's his line from when he was Secretary of State.
Oh, okay, great.
I'll find the quote and I'll give it to you.
Yeah, it's a good line. And we didn't even mention the Christians.
Oh, yeah.
Okay, a Christian country like America, the first thing it should say to Giuliani, before it talks about these other groups that Americans American wouldn't know what an Alawite is, wouldn't know what a Druze is, doesn't know what a Kurd is, but they know what Christians are. Right. So on the list of things to do, protect minority rights, particularly Christians.
Right, they're also getting massacred in Syria right now.
And then everybody else. So this should, again, Secretary Rubio was clear on this. Here are the conditions. If he had called me, I would have added another 3 conditions, but he knows what he's getting into. Now, here we get into the difference between America First short term and America First long term. America First short term is, I don't want to think about Syria, I don't know about Syria, I have a million other things to do, this sounds reasonable, we're going to trust them, okay, good luck, Giuliani.
We have bigger problems to fry.
Right. Right, but America First long term says, yes, we care about minority rights. That's a essential trait of Judeo-Christian society, is minorities are protected. By the way, they're protected in real life. They're also protected in business. They're protected everywhere.
Right, but I would say even differently. It's not that I'm taking you one step further. That's not even long term, because the second the jihadi Muslims see that we're doing nothing to protect minority rights against ethnic genocide today in Syria, they also see they have an open door to go after and kill minorities everywhere in the world, including the West. I mean, if we're not going to stop it in Syria, where it's so easy against an ISIS murderer, then we're not even being able to stop it in Europe or in America.
Look, take France and England. They're roughly 90% Christian countries. The Christians are dramatically...
They've given up their rights.
They're discriminated against.
They've literally sold their rights to...
Right. So the governments are not protecting the rights of the 90% majority, let alone the 4% or 8% minority. Or take Nigeria, a country of something like 220 million people.
Oh, the West cares about Africa?
Couldn't care less.
They don't care about that.
Something like 5,000 Christians that get killed every year as the Muslims in the north move south. To me, that's a crisis. It's a crisis as American. It's a crisis as a Christian country. No one says anything.
Yeah.
So now this all goes to America First long term. See, America First short term could say, well, 5,000 people killed in Nigeria. Well, it's a tragedy for them, but I don't know them, and they're not my relatives, and they're in Nigeria, and I don't even know where Nigeria is. But America First long term would say, this is not only a tragedy, it's an existential risk to America, because after the Muslims in the northern part of Africa kill all the Christians in the southern half, they're not going to just stop.
Stay there.
They're not going to stay there and say, oh, isn't this wonderful? We killed all the Christians in the southern half. Then they're going to go to Latin America and then come up to America.
Right, and they're also ignoring the fact that this is a long-term strategy of Iran and Qatar in terms of the Islamic jihad all over the world. So if you don't stop it where it's beginning and succeeding, like Middle East and Africa, then you only wake up when it comes to your doorstep, and then it's already too late.
For every Western country, whenever I speak to politicians there, I say, it's time to make our final stand. They go, what do you mean a final stand? This is America's final stand to save itself, or France, or England, or Nigeria. Say, I'm not putting up with this war anymore.
Right.
I'm going to defeat the bad guys.
Right.
Make your final stand now.
Don't wait till it's beyond final.
Yeah, or the next generation, or your kids or your grandkids.
Right.
It's your job, Mr.
Now,
Politician.
Right. No, it's a great line. So now I want to take you from the positive angle, because throughout, and you just raised this, how even throughout the these deals that Witkoff, the Trump administration, have been trying to push in the Middle East, Syria, the Houthis in Yemen, Iran, Israel has a free hand. The biggest blessing is, seriously, Trump is the first president to basically publicly, whether he's not acknowledged it, but the policy is Israel has a free hand. Even in the first Gulf War of 1990, when I was here in Israel, my family, my parents, they brought us to come back home to live in Israel. We got off the plane, and the first thing we were given is what? Gas masks, right? Because Iraq was going to be attacking us with biological weapons. That was our welcome home, gas masks, okay? George Bush the first forbid Prime Minister Yitzhak Shamir at the time for Israel to be able to attack and defend ourselves against Iraq's aggression. Forbid us. He goes, if you do this, then our coalition breaks up. You can't do it. And that was a Republican. And obviously under every Democrat, our ability to defend ourselves was never permitted with all the wheelings and dealings of American administrations one after the other. This is the first administration where Israel has a free hand to do what's necessary. Again, the Trump administration made a deal with the Houthis, and we've attacked the Houthis since then. So even though America had a deal that did not include protecting us, and since they're still shooting at us, Israel's doing what it has to do. So my positive analysis of this is whether Trump, and I want to hear your 2 cents, whether Trump is doing this on purpose or not on purpose, a byproduct of the way he's running his wheelings and dealings right now is empowering our independence despite whatever deals he's working on. Which would mean, if I take this to the nth degree, if he does end up making a deal with Iran, that's a bad deal, or bad enough for Israel, which I don't think it's going to go that way, but let's just play it out. I do think Israel will be in the position to do what we have to do in order to stop from Iran being able to be an existential threat with whatever they still are to develop. I could be wrong, but yes or no, this byproduct is growing the sense of independence in Israel, in understanding and doing what we have to do, despite what world powers, including our best friend and really only friend right now, able to stand up for us, the United States of America. And I look at that as a positive moving forward. I'd love to hear your 2 cents on that.
By the way, America is Israel's only ally. America doesn't know this, but Israel is America's only ally.
Right. That's more important for people to know.
Yeah.
Exactly.
Yeah. So, but your point's well taken. Whether it was design or inadvertently, President Trump has empowered Israel. Do whatever you want in Gaza. Although sometimes he contradicts himself. And then the next week he'll say, oh, get the war over with right away. Well, you can get a war over with in 3 days. Just call in the B-52s or Israel's equivalent of B-52s and kill everybody.
Right. Anytime he says that, it's not about ceasefire and end the war. It's about Israel win it already. He's basically win it.
Yeah.
So that's still from the positive, not stopping us from defending ourselves.
Sure, but if I called up President Roosevelt, pretend during World War II in 1943, and say, enough of this already, just go win the war, like this week. he would say, excuse me, I have to move soldiers here and weapons there and weapons there. You want me just to blow up every single person in Europe? Yeah, I can end the war in 1 week, but I don't want to be accused of a war crime. So we're going to go methodically after the German and their allies.
Right. Time out on 1 second. 1 second.
So, yes, he's empowered Israel in Gaza. He's empowered Israel with the Houthis because he basically signed a separate peace agreement, which, by the way, is unheard of. America has taken on itself a responsibility to protect freedom of navigation throughout the world.
Right.
So you can't say, we're the U.S. Navy, we guarantee freedom of navigation to everybody except the Jews. You go, what? How about if I said freedom of navigation for everybody except the Taiwanese people? Right. You go, well, what kind of superpower are you? When you say everybody, you mean everybody, both friend and foe. Remember the allies, the frenemies, and the enemies. Everybody should have use to the Suez Canal. Okay, so President Trump, in my mind, made a mistake on that one, but he did empower Israel.
Right. Yeah, I'm looking at the
on the positive side.
I've heard through the grapevine that was not intentional, and it just happened. But regardless, I'm looking at it from the positive because he's not telling us to stop attacking the Houthis.
Right.
And that's empowering for us. And I feel better. I actually feel better that no, we're taking care of ourselves, and we're not only being taken care of because Trump made a deal that includes us.
Right. Now, also bear in mind, in defense of Trump, he didn't say this, but pretend he was saying this, that we, the American military, are blowing up their military sites. But we know Israel will blow up their commercial sites. We don't want to be accused of blowing up their commercial sites.
Got it.
So Israel can punish the Houthis in ways that we, America, is not going to punish the Houthis. So, yeah, and then in Lebanon, Israel's basically blowing up anything south of the Litani.
Right.
And I've seen in articles that Israel basically controls 80%, directly or indirectly, 80% of the area south of Litani. It means there's another 20% to go. Israel has 5 bases. It used to have 10 bases. America should have encouraged Israel to keep all the 10 bases.
100%. And keep all of South Lebanon, which is northern Israel, the tribes of Nasher and Naphtali, until at least the Litani, in order to protect Israel and the minorities there, because they're also in danger.
Again, America first, short-term, long-term. America first, long-term, should have said to Israel, if you can conquer all the land south of the Litani, conquer it, it's yours. Have a nice day. Right. And so that was a misreading, well, I would say misreading of America first, but a purposeful short-term orientation to it.
Right.
So now the big question marks Iran.
Right.
And here on Iran is America saying to Iran, we're not empowering you yet to act on your own. We want to try the negotiation route. And so Israel and America is basically suffering through negotiations because every day the negotiations go on gives
another day they're closer to there.
Another day for nuclear weapons, another day to add them to their long-range ballistic missile system. And it could be that in 2 weeks, Iran says, okay, negotiations over, we have 10 nuclear weapons, they're pointed at Washington, Florida, and New York, and London, and Israel, of course, and if anyone messes with us, we're going to blow them up. Now, Trump will look pretty dumb pretty fast if they pull that trick. Now, they're going to pull that trick, okay? And Trump doesn't know yet that America's at existential risk every day he waits. And the reason is Americans have the same problem I mentioned with Syria and the other countries. If you say to America, where is Iran? They go, is it there? I'm not sure. It's somewhere over there. We have an ocean, and what's it have to do with me?
Right.
But now with we saw drones in Russia a few days ago, but with the abilities of drones and missiles, the world's much smaller, very small nowadays. So oceans don't have the same strength that they had years ago.
All right, so now I want to ask you from a different direction, that even with everything we're talking about, I have a positive spin on this. I want to hear your 2 cents. That while Trump is doing what, or his people, Witkoff, are doing what they think is the right thing to do, and even though the Houthi deal does not include Israel, his steps and decisions and deals are empowering Israel. We're allowed to do, and you mentioned this as well, we're allowed to do what we have to do in Syria. We're allowed to do what we have to do against the Houthis. I believe even if Trump ends up making a bad JCPOA plus deal with Iran, which I don't think is going to happen, that Israel, we're going to have to do what we have to do, because we can't allow the existential threat of Iran, even if America is not as bothered by it. Again, I'm not worried about that. I think a bad deal won't happen, but I'm optimistic about the fact that it's pushing Israel to be more independent, which we need to be, and it's the first administration ever that we've ever had that reality. Because again, I made Aliyah in 1990, the first Gulf War, and I remember George Bush the first, President George Bush, forbid Israeli Prime Minister Yitzhak Shamir from having Israel do what we had to do in order to defend ourselves against Iraq, that we're going to be shooting, that was thought to be shooting biological weapons at us. The first things we got, landing off the plane when we returned to Israel, was gas masks. Our population was going to be threatened with biological weapons, and Bush forbid us from doing what we had to do to defend ourselves. So the fact that we have a Trump administration that, even while it's doing whatever it's doing, our action of independence has grown in a way that we've never had before, and I believe that's the positive takeaway and byproduct of everything going on, even if not all the deals are exactly the way we want them to be going. Love to hear your 2 cents.
No, I'm also very optimistic, particularly over the next 12 months, because Israel has to resolve all this mess. And Israel can't fight an endless war, and it has to bring these things to these challenges to conclusion. I very much appreciated Ron Dermer's talk at the JNS conference just a few weeks ago in Jerusalem, Jewish News Service. And he publicly said, when he was asked a similar question, he said that I'm very optimistic I'm paraphrasing, over the next 12 months, we're going to win on all our fronts, in all of our fronts, that means including Iran, and one by one, we will emerge victorious, so that when we're at this conference next year and you ask me a similar question, I will very happily discuss how we won on all fronts. So I would agree with that, and so I'm also very optimistic. One challenge that we've discussed before is the deep state.
Right, that's the 8th front.
That's right, and the deep state's different than the other 7. The other 7 fronts are all military fronts. It's just a question of dropping the right bomb at the right time on the right target. The deep state, you don't drop a bomb on the deep state. And by the way, every democracy has a deep state problem. So
right.
don't think you're unique in this. America has a deep state problem. Everyone has a deep state problem. So I think that the deep state will come under control when the Supreme Court comes under control. So I'm looking forward to judicial reform over the next 12 months. And I think one impetus to curbing the out-of-control Supreme Court will be the whenever there's an October 7th inquiry, if it's done by independent people, it will find out that the Supreme Court was the #1 culprit for October 7th. I hate to say that, but the Supreme Court was illegally engineering a coup against the Netanyahu government, working with the other members of the deep state, working through its illegitimate attorney generals, working with the rogue elements of this Biden administration, Supreme Court, CIA, and working with your corrupt opposition here to undermine Netanyahu before the election, during a war. Israel's always in a state of war.
But before the war, before the war ends,
right.
What was the impetus for the war, right?
That's right. And the bad guys surrounding Israel saw that Israel was run by delusional incompetence, and were fighting each other, and they said this is a good chance to pounce, that they will not be prepared to attack us militarily because they're fighting each other internally. And I think it'll be shown that the Supreme Court was the #1 culprit behind October 7th, and that'll diminish their authority and prestige and allow a better judicial reform within the next year.
Yeah, it's very, very interesting and very, very important. And you touched upon the collaboration of the Obama-Biden administration. I think Elon Musk already came out with Doge funding of millions of dollars from the USAID and whatever other actors with the approval of the Obama-Biden administration funneled to the whole anti-Netanyahu, anti-judicial reform protest movement that brought about the insane public sentiment supporting Israeli soldiers, saying we're not even going to go to war even if there's war against Iran. That then was one of the reasons that Hamas decided to attack when it attacked and start that whole war.
And as a final point, I'm hoping that the Trump administration even gets involved in judicial reform, because since Israel is America's only ally, America needs a very strong Israel. And it doesn't need an Israel fighting each other. It needs Israel fighting the bad guys, not the good guys within the society. And I would hope that even the Trump administration would start saying that the government and the judiciary have to work out something. And if they don't work out, we might have to sanction the Supreme Court. I hate to even say that, but I think America's got to get involved and get the Supreme Court to behave like a normal Supreme Court of other democracies, and not as a judiciocracy, as some people call it, basically out-of-control judiciary telling the elected leaders how to behave.
Interesting.
That's anathema to democracy.
And believe it or not, I'm going to even strengthen your point, because what the deep state in Israel is doing by weakening Israel all these years and still trying, even in the middle of war, and stopping us from being able to do what we have to do to defend ourselves, to be able to literally live, that weakens America. So right. It's in America's interest that this deep state with us is taking care of, so that Israel can stand up properly and do what we have to do without this internal illegal actions against ourselves from standing up properly to defend ourselves in order to defend America. But I'll push back a little, because I actually don't think it would be right for Trump to get involved and do something like that, because that would actually kick in a boomerang effect. Yeah. Right. And I think what the deep state is actually digging its own grave with each day. It's coming out more and more public information, with more Israelis realizing, oh my God, this is insane. This is illegal. It's out of their jurisdiction. They're literally going against laws. They're writing their own laws, which is not under their power. I mean, just for instance, just today I read about current events, news. The Knesset is trying to pass a law to establish a registration of freed terrorists. Right, all these thousands of terrorists released because of these horrendous deals, or just freed because of whatever shortened sentences. Israelis don't know who's out there in the streets able to hit us again. And again, the statistics say 80% of the freed terrorists go back to killing us. And who's been stopping this registration from being... You don't need a law to have a registry. The legal establishment all these years, for many years, have stopped the Justice Ministry from being able to put together this or allow the compilation of this registry, because privacy rights and the right to rehabilitate, they're literally killing us. So it's taking this Justice Minister to approve this bill to hopefully be passed to finally have this necessary registration. Even though I wish we didn't need this registration if we just had the death penalty and they're all put to death the second they're arrested. But it's this own deep state that's doing so much damage, but they're digging their own grave with each and every day. So that's going to be their ultimate undoing. Final word of optimism moving forward, or maybe not optimism, but final word moving forward, Ken, thanks to all of your insight.
Well, final word of optimism is, I think, over the next several years, America, representing Christians, and Israel, representing Jews, will get a close relationship and together save Western civilization. Western civilization is just a fancy term for democracy. But it's up to the Jews in Israel and the Christians in America to save Western civilization, because Europe's not going to do it. No one else is going to do it. And these are the two exceptional countries in the world. And I expect both countries to rise to the challenge of saving democracy.
100%. That totally goes with your websites and your whole reason d'etre, savethewest.com. And I'll just further strengthen that point, because in the Torah, Jews, we believe, Ki mitzion teitzei Torah. From Zion, from Jerusalem, Torah will go out, will be promoted around the world. And it's not just the written Torah and the studies and the values from the Bible, but it's by us standing up for our biblical values and defending ourselves physically against the seven-front enemy of enemies outside of us, and an internal deep state. By us winning that battle, we empower the rest of the freedom-loving world, the West, to save itself. So we're that first front line, and yeah, I believe it's going to happen. It's only a matter of time. We're part of this process of empowering ourselves to make that happen. So thank you so much.
A lot of good things to come over the next year.
A lot of good things to come. We still hold on to the trauma. We remember what's happening. My son just lost a friend killed in Gaza last night. This is our reality. Bittersweet, but we see the light at the end of the tunnel. And I'm glad to have someone to talk to who also has that deep understanding and analysis to be able to provide everyone. So, Ken, thank you so much.
Great to be with you as always.
Always a pleasure. And everyone, Ken will be speaking at our upcoming conference on June 17th at the Begin Center. Click below. If you're in Israel, you want a ticket to attend live, click, order, come, and say hi when you come. And if you're anywhere in the world and you can't attend in person, also click on the link below in order to reserve a ticket to watch the conference via Zoom. So wherever you are, anywhere in the world, click below. Love to have you join and say hi when you're there. Shalom, everyone, and thanks for watching. That's it for today's special Pulse of Israel program, when you get a daily, belief-based, inspiring, politically incorrect truth about Israel, the Jewish people, and the freedom-loving world. If you are not yet a subscriber, what are you waiting for? Go to pulseofisrael.com and click to subscribe today. And yes, we are a donor-based operation. We're heavily censored across all the social media platforms. It's thanks to your support, large donations or small donations, that we're able to do our work. And we have so much work to be done, so much truth to inspire people with, especially the Jews. And it's thanks to your donations. So every once in a while, just click on the donate button on pulseofisrael.com. Shalom, everyone, and thanks for watching.
Pulse of Israel, frontline videos from the Holy Land. Support our work by donating today.